Hi, boys and girls. This is Mr. McAllister coming back again with another art assignment. The assignment for this week has to do with your family history and heritage. This design here is the start to what is known as a coat of arms, which has a lot of European history. My last name is McAllister, so I went on Google and found a McAllister coat of arms. Now, that's a Scottish name, and so there was a specific design that had this griffin, and as I looked closer, I saw this ship in the center of the griffin on a shield, and around the shield are all these oak leaves, and above it is a helmet. And then down below is this scroll where I would write my name, McAllister. But your last name may not be of European descent, and your last name might not have a coat of arms that goes with it. So we're going to have to do a little thinking about how to be designing art that has to do with your family of origin. That means where your parents and your grandparents come from. And thinking about your family history and designing some art that has to do with it. I do want to say that this project was more interesting than I originally thought because I started to see all these details and I started to wonder as I went, like, why did they decide oak leaves were the design motif that goes around this shield? And of course, I was curious about why is there a ship in the middle of that griffin? I don't know yet. So I've got some questions to ask. And then there were these crosses. And if you know anything about designing a flag, there's always a reason for the number of stars on a flag, for example. And there's a reason for every color that is chosen. This is mostly reds, yellows, and black in the McAllister family coat of arms. So I don't know why all those things are included. And then there's this military helmet, which I'm not entirely sure why that has to do with my last name either. So I had a lot to learn about my people. And I just got more questions than answers by working on this drawing. But for the first time in my life, I started to pay attention to my family coat of arms. For the last part of fifth grade, I really wanted to ask these questions about who you are, where you come from, what your family is like, and then what makes you unique and distinct from your parents. So I have got these questions. Of course, you don't have your sketchbooks right now, but we had these questions to answer about our biography, and then we were going to design the cover to our book. And going with the same idea of your autobiography, I started to ask you questions about your family tree. And so that is what I think we should work on right now. This is one attempt at me designing my family tree. However, this is not the best version. This is just me getting my ideas on paper. I had read a couple of tips about designing your family tree, and one tip was to put your male family members in a square and your female family members in a circle. So I started with myself, or I should have started with myself. Rather, what I did start with was my father and my mother. So I put a circle for my mother and drew a square for my father. And then their marriage created these three other people, my sister and my brother and myself. I'm just using my initials right now to get the design together. For today, what I would like you to do, since we have this great opportunity of being at home with family right now, you can really get some questions answered about your family tree. So let's start with everybody's favorite part, yourself. So if you are in the middle, I am a boy, so I'm going to draw a square, a rectangle, and I'll give my initials. Now, I have a father and a mother. So those people had to come together for me to come into existence. So I have a father and I have a mother. Remember, we're going to do circles for ladies and squares for fellows. So my mom is a J and her last name was Stewart. And my dad, his last name was McAllister. So this is just the design part where I'm getting my ideas out. Dad had a brother and he had a sister. And Mom had one brother. And all of these people came from parents as well. So who were their parents? Well, their parents on my dad's side, this is my grandfather, and this is my grandmother. And on my mom's side, I also have a grandfather, and I have a grandmother. But that's not all. I could just keep on growing my family tree this way. My grandfather had 9 brothers and sisters, I think. So I could be drawing all the circles and squares of all those people. And my grandmother, of course, they had bigger families longer ago. She had, I think, 5 siblings, but I'd have to really ask some questions of my parents on the telephone if I was going to get all of that right. I do know her last name was Christensen, so that's RC. And my grandfather was Charles McAllister. And my uncle was Ron. And my aunt was Pat, still alive. And then my mom, her brother is my uncle. So this is a family tree just getting started. Now, you can have a lot of fun designing your family tree, not only making it look like a tree, but getting information in there about these people and their lives. You could make notes. It could become a pretty interesting little document as you go on. I know that this guy went to college at a certain place, so I could write a note about his college, and I know that she was a nurse. So if you wanted to, you could go in some detail designing those sketch notes about these people in your life. Well, Harold, he liked golf, so I'm going to draw a golf ball here just to give a little note about who they were. And my dad, he was an architect, and I told you that before, so I'm going to draw a little draftman's triangle for my dad. And my mom, she liked to quilt, so I'll give a little, that's supposed to be some thread on a needle for my mom. And we could just do these little symbols to go with it. Of course, you know about me by now. You probably realize I have 3 kids. And they are a boy and a girl. And then I had another boy. So my children look like that. And I'd like to see you try and draw some notes that represent your family. I took a minute and went and found some documents that had been created with my family history, and I redrew my family tree with accurate information about all those siblings of my grandparents and my great-grandparents. And now, as an artist, I have more to work with about my own self and my identity.